Hello! Last time I talked about the idea of adventure. Today I want to give you a couple of examples. So a couple years back I went to my friend Kristen's birthday party and she announced that she wanted to do 50 by 50. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, I want to go to 50 states by age 50. I really like that idea, so I thought I should make a list myself. And so I did. I split up all of the 50 states of the United States into different categories: places I had lived, places I had spent the night, places I had merely driven through, and places I had never been. So I have spent the night or lived in 31 different states, and then I've driven through an additional 13 states, which makes 44. And there's actually none that are in this weird category where you have a layover at a certain state or a country or a city, but you don't actually visit. I don't know if that would even count. But for me, none were in that category, so I didn't have to make that decision. I did go to Houston that way. The only time I've ever been to Houston was just a couple minutes in a layover at the airport. Okay, so that leaves 6 states that I've never been to, and next week I'm going on a trip to visit 3 of those states. My friend Rick just got a job in Tennessee, and he and his family just moved there, so I'm going to go to Tennessee and Kentucky and West Virginia. Those are 3 of the 6 I've never been to. A couple years back I went on a trip, one of my first cheap flight trips, and I went to go visit Kansas City, Missouri. But when I was looking through my list, I realized that I have never been to Kansas. So the airport, the bus ride, the place where I stayed, the museum that I looked at, all of these things were all in Missouri, so I've actually never been to Kansas. So that's another place I've never been to. And then I've never been to Wyoming, but my friend Jake lives there, so maybe I'll go visit him. And then finally, the 50th state I've never been to is Hawaii. So maybe I'll make a big celebration for my 50th birthday and go visit Hawaii. By the way, I've only been to 6 countries. I was telling this to a friend of mine yesterday, and he said that he's trying to keep the number of countries he's visited higher than his current age. That would be hard for me because I've only been to 6. Oh, by the way, here's a fun trick for Americans anyway. You can amaze your friends and confound your enemies by this. You can ask people, you can say, I bet you can't list all 50 states within 5 minutes. And it turns out most people can't. Because there's a big difference in recalling a whole list versus being able to just recognize things on a list. So here's what you do. You start a timer, give them a piece of paper, a blank piece of paper, and a pencil, and with no maps or nobody helping them, see if they can actually list all 50 states. And it's surprisingly difficult. Most people get to like 47 or 48 and then not be able to get the last one. Unless they had some song they memorized as a kid, maybe they'd be able to go through that. But try it yourself sometime, see if you can do it without looking at a map. And tomorrow there's another adventure happening. 3 of us are headed to Austin, Texas, just for a couple days. And there's a couple reasons. First of all, I've always wanted to see Austin, never been there. I want to see the Texas State Capitol. I have 2 cousins that live in the area. And so we're headed out there tomorrow morning. And this is actually one of those cheap flights I mentioned in my cheap airfare video from a couple weeks back. And I said that this was the cheapest flight I had ever heard of, 2.01 cents per mile. But guess what? One of the people coming along, because the way that plans change, she lives out in Texas anyway. She's taking a one-way flight from John Wayne to Austin on the same flight as we're going. And she bought the ticket only 3 days before we're leaving, on Sunday, before we leave on Wednesday morning. And her final price, guess how much it was? Well, she went to the airport like I suggest in the video, and it turns out that her final price was $17.30. And so that's, let's see, that makes 1,209 miles at $17.30, which is 1.43 cents per mile. So that's a new record. If anybody can beat that, let me know. Anyway, so we're looking forward to seeing Austin, and hopefully I will be showing you some pictures of that trip soon. All right, well, it might seem like I'm doing all these adventures and going off onto all of these fun places, and I am, but that's just sort of the way that the internet works. When you look at somebody's Facebook feed or their Instagram feed, they put the interesting things online. So most of the weeks I just am sitting at home doing normal stuff. In fact, one summer I made a whole picture album saying, this is me sitting at work, this is me driving to work, this is what a normal week looks like sitting here during the summer. Anyway, so meanwhile, I will be showing you some of the interesting things I'm doing. And by the way, like I mentioned in the video last time, you can do adventures at different scales. So I have this big multi-year adventure of trying to do all 50 by 50, or even just going for a couple days to a different state, like we're going to Austin, Texas. But just a couple days ago, I did something on the other end of the scale. I had heard that the new A line opened up, which is the old Blue Line light rail that goes from Los Angeles to Long Beach. And they were opening it up. Snoop Dogg was there. They had all of these opening ceremonies, but the next day they were still doing free rides for the weekend. So I got on and rode the whole length all the way from downtown Long Beach to downtown LA, met up with a friend for dinner, and did sort of a couple-hour adventure like that. And like I mentioned in the last video, I think it's important to kind of like look around and see interesting things around you. So here's a couple pictures, just random pictures of kind of beauty in the industrial area of train station. Anyhow, hope you have a good week. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to say. I have a list here. Oh yes, I was gonna mention Frontier Airlines is currently running another sale for $15 flights today and tomorrow. So go look online at flyfrontier.com. They're not a sponsor or anything, I'm just saying if you want to try to do these cheap flights, you might be able to find some good flights right now if you look online. All right, I will talk to you when I get back from these trips and show you some pictures then. Have a good day.